In an arid battlefield, the Israelite army found itself paralyzed by fear in the face of the Philistine threat. The voices of bravery had fallen silent, and distrust permeated the air as the giant Goliath challenged the soldiers daily, finding no resistance. However, among them was a young shepherd named David, who was about to change the course of history. With a heart full of faith, he approached King Saul and declared that no one's heart should fail because of Goliath. He would go and fight that Philistine. David's courage was not based on his abilities, but on his unwavering trust in God. The atmosphere was thick with tension, but David's determination reignited hope among the Israelites. He knew that his God would protect him, and that faith would become a beacon for his companions. As he prepared to face Goliath, David was not only fighting for his life, but also for the future of an entire nation, sparking a wave of courage that would resonate with every soldier watching him. What was at stake was not just a battle, but the renewal of faith for a people lost in despair. David observed the Israelite camp at dawn, the golden light of the sun reflecting off the soldiers' armor, which appeared more like shadows than men. Fear reigned, and Goliath's voice echoed in everyone's memory, calling for a champion to fight him. He felt the tension in the air, as if the very ground trembled under the weight of distrust. "Why is no one doing anything?" David murmured to himself as he walked among the soldiers. One of them, Eliab, his older brother, looked at him with disdain. He questioned what David knew about war, dismissing him as merely a shepherd. David took a deep breath, trying not to let frustration take over. He explained that while he tended to his sheep, he had also faced lions and bears, and the Lord had delivered him from them. He would deliver him from this Philistine as well. Eliab rolled his eyes, but David's determination was like a flame beginning to ignite dormant hopes. Meanwhile, King Saul sat on his throne, tormented by the same doubts. He wondered how he could trust a boy to face a giant, recalling the strength and experience of his best soldiers, all paralyzed by fear. When David entered his tent, the expectation was palpable. Saul expressed concern, stating that David could not go against Goliath because he was young. Goliath was a warrior from his youth. "King, I won't go alone," David replied, feeling the urgency in his heart. "The Lord of hosts is with me." The determination in his voice made Saul hesitate. He realized that behind that youth was a strength that many of his warriors did not possess: faith. David stepped away from the tent, reflecting on what lay ahead. "What am I doing?" he thought, a chill forming in his stomach. "Will I have enough courage?" But as he looked up at the sky, he felt the presence of God, as if each star was a reminder of his promises. If God is for us, who can be against us? With these words in mind, David decided he would not back down. He was ready to face not just a giant, but the very uncertainty that loomed over his people. David felt the weight of the soldiers' gazes upon him as he moved away from the king's tent. The growing murmurs among the warriors echoed in his ears, a mix of skepticism and fear. "He's just a boy," someone said. "How dare he challenge Goliath?" The words were like arrows, striking his heart and making his determination waver. "What if I fail?" he thought, doubt rising like a shadow in his mind. As he walked toward the battlefield, David felt the pressure mount. The voices of his brothers and the soldiers turned into a chorus of discouragement. "If you die, what will become of us?" Eliab had questioned earlier, and that question echoed like a drum in his chest. It was more than a personal struggle. It was the hope of an entire nation. He knew that if he failed, the consequences would be devastating. In the distance, Goliath approached, a colossus that challenged the courage of anyone. "Today I will give the bodies of the children of Israel to the birds of the air and the beasts of the earth," the giant roared. The sound of his voice was a growl that resonated in the heart of every Israelite. David could feel the tension in the air, a palpable force threatening to crush any hope. "I cannot back down," David thought, as his mind fought against doubt. He remembered the words he had heard. If the Lord does not build the house, those who build it labor in vain. He was not just building his own destiny, but that of his entire people. The responsibility was immense, and the pressure almost unbearable. But there was something deeper within him, a certainty he could not ignore. The Lord is my light and my salvation. Whom shall I fear? The flame of faith began to burn inside him, warning his determination. He realized that if he did not face Goliath, he would not only fail as a warrior, but also as a leader. The dilemma intensified. He needed to choose between the echoes of fear and the voice of faith that pulsed in his heart. David took a deep breath, feeling that the battle was not just against a giant, but against the very despair threatening to consume his people. As David approached the battlefield, his heart raced in a frantic rhythm. He remembered the first time he had faced a lion and a bear while tending his father's sheep. The Lord delivered me from the hand of the lion and from the hand of the bear. He will deliver me from the hand of this Philistine. But now, the gravity of the situation felt overwhelming. He could feel the pressure of the gazes, not only from the soldiers, but from those he loved and who depended on him. What if he failed? The thought of disappointing them consumed him. I am just a young man, inexperienced in battle, he thought, struggling against the wave of insecurity. How can I be the chosen one? Doubt was a storm in his mind, each thought like lightning illuminating his uncertainties. Yet, even so, an inner voice told him that God had chosen this moment to act through him, just as he had done with the prophets of the past. On the other side, Goliath continued his taunts, mocking everyone and challenging the courage of Israel. The giant was not just a physical adversary. He was a symbol of the fear that dominated the nation. David felt the tension rise with every word the Philistine spoke, and the idea of defeat loomed like a threatening shadow. If I fall, who will lift my people? He wondered, the weight of responsibility heavy on his shoulders. The narrator observed David's dilemma intensifying. The choice between fear and faith became a battleground within. The young man faced not only a physical giant, but also the demons of doubt that tormented him. In a moment of revelation, he recalled the words of Isaiah, "Do not fear, for I am with you. Do not be dismayed, for I am your God." This assurance renewed his determination. Now, resolute, David lifted his head and looked forward, sensing the presence of the Lord by his side. "I will not fight alone," he concluded as he picked up his sling. The weight of the world felt a little lighter, but the battle was still to come, and the consequences of his choices weighed heavily on his heart. He knew that regardless of the outcome, his life and that of his nation would be irrevocably changed. And above all, he was about to face the very definition of courage. David took a deep breath, feeling the scent of the earth and the whisper of the wind in his ears. He walked toward the field, the sling in his hand, each step echoing in the tense silence that enveloped the army of Israel. "The Lord is my light and my salvation. Whom shall I fear?" The phrase resonated in his mind, fueling his courage. Goliath, with his shining armor and thunderous voice, challenged David. "Am I a dog that you come to me with sticks?" he shouted, causing the Israelite soldiers to tremble with fear. But David did not hesitate. He stepped forward, a few paces from the enemy, feeling adrenaline pulse through his veins. "You come to me with a sword, a spear, and a shield. But I come to you in the name of the Lord of hosts, the God of the armies of Israel," David proclaimed, his voice steady and resonant. The crowd fell silent, absorbing the audacity of the young man's words. He was not just a shepherd. He was a messenger of God, and the certainty of his mission strengthened him. With a swift movement, David placed a stone in his sling, spinning it skillfully. Time seemed to slow as he aimed with precision. "Let all the earth know that there is a God in Israel," he thought, determination igniting his heart. In an instant, he released the stone with all his might. The stone struck Goliath with a fatal blow, and the giant fell, the echo of the impact reverberating across the battlefield. Silence was shattered by a thunderous cry of surprise and relief from the Israelites. Victory was there before them, and the courage of a young man had changed the fate of a nation. The Israelite soldiers, once terrified, now surged forward, encouraged by David's bravery. The fear that had once dominated them transformed into a shout of triumph. David, still in shock, felt a wave of emotion. He had defeated the giant, but more importantly, he had trusted in the Lord. With God, we will do great things, he recalled as the reality of his new mission began to take shape in his mind. The battle was not just against a physical enemy. It was a struggle for a faith and the identity of his people. David stood for a moment, watching Goliath's lifeless body, adrenaline still coursing through his veins. A wave of disbelief and joy washed over him. The Lord is good, his stronghold in the day of trouble, he thought, remembering that his victory was not just a personal triumph, but a testament to God's faithfulness to his people. The Israelite soldiers, once paralyzed by fear, now united in a shout of victory. They surrounded the giant's body with a mix of awe and joy, tears streaming down their faces. David realized that the courage he had found was not just his own. It resonated in each of them, like an echo of renewed faith. He saw men who once hid now raising their swords, ready to fight. "The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want," he mentally repeated, feeling the weight of his new responsibility. As the soldiers advanced, David remembered his childhood, the simple days spent tending to the sheep. He reflected on how he could have been chosen for this, feeling small in the face of the greatness of what had just happened. Yet, at the same time, he realized that his life had changed forever. He now carried not only the honor of being a hero, but also the mission to lead and inspire his people. The narrator observed the transformation occurring around him as the crowd gathered around David, reverence in their eyes. He noticed that fear had dissipated, giving way to hope and confidence. The clamor of the Israelite army was a testament to the power of God and the courage that had blossomed from the heart of a young shepherd. The victory over Goliath, more than just a battle won, was a milestone in Israel's history, a reminder that, with faith, even giants can be defeated. David looked at the faces of his companions, now illuminated by the light of hope. The Israelite army, once dominated by fear, now marched with determination, ready to face any challenge that arose. He thought of the words, "The Lord is my light and my salvation, whom shall I fear?" Feeling that the victory over Goliath was not merely a military achievement, but a sign of divine protection over his people. After the battle, David was hailed as a hero. However, in his heart, he knew that the true victory belonged to God. He remembered what the Lord had said, "Not by might nor by power, but by my spirit." That experience had transformed him, shaping him to be a leader who would guide Israel not only with bravery, but with faith. He understood that his journey as a shepherd had prepared him for these moments, and now, more than ever, he needed to lead his people with wisdom and love. The narrator, observing the scene, reflected on the lesson unfolding before him. True strength lies in unwavering faith in God. David's triumph over Goliath was not just a story of a bold young man, but a message that, with faith, even the greatest challenges can be overcome. The echo of David's courage would resonate through future generations, reminding everyone that, with God by their side, no giant is too great to be defeated. David, now aware of his new calling, whispered to himself, "This victory is just the beginning. May my life be a testament to God's greatness." And so, with a heart full of gratitude, he prepared to lead his people into a new era of faith and hope, knowing that divine justice would always prevail. David looked toward the horizon, where the sun began to set, reflecting the colors of triumph and hope. He felt that each step he took now carried not only the weight of a crown, but the responsibility to guide a people. The victory over Goliath was not just a military feat, but a testament to the power of God working through a willing heart. He remembered God's words in Romans 8:31, "If God is for us, who can be against us?" This truth became the foundation of his leadership. Reflecting on his journey, David realized that his faith was not limited to moments of triumph. It was a constant, a bond that connected him to God in all circumstances. The psalm he often recited, Psalm 46:1, echoed in his mind, "God is our refuge and strength, a very present help in trouble." In every challenge, he knew he could seek shelter in the presence of the Lord. This understanding led him to face not only Goliath, but any obstacle with confidence and courage. David's story teaches that true strength does not come from personal skills or talents, but from a deep relationship with God. It is in obedience and the willingness to follow his ways that we find true victory. At its core, the battle against Goliath symbolizes the giants we all face in our lives' fears, doubts, and difficulties that seem insurmountable. However, faith enables us to look beyond the visible and trust in the invisible. As it is written in Hebrews 11:1, faith is the assurance of things hoped for, the conviction of things not seen. In our daily lives, we are challenged to live up this faith practically. This translates into trusting God in the midst of crises, seeking His guidance in difficult decisions, and acting with courage in the face of adversity. David did not just face Goliath, he prepared for that battle in his moments of solitude, when he tended to his sheep and sought the face of God. This time of preparation is essential for anyone who wishes to live a life of faith. We must cultivate our relationship with God in our daily routines, praying and meditating on His Word. As Paul teaches us in Philippians 4:6-7, "Do not be anxious about anything, but in everything, by prayer and supplication with thanksgiving, let your requests be made known to God." In a final reflection, David pondered that each challenge he faced and every battle he fought brought him closer to God. He learned that obedience and faith are the keys that open the doors to victory. He hoped to never forget that even in the darkest hours, the light of the Lord will always shine on his path. He knew that his journey was just beginning, but now more than ever, he felt strengthened by the certainty that he was not walking alone. The narrator, observing this transformation, realized that the moral of David's story is clear. Unshakable faith can move mountains and conquer giants. No matter how great the challenge we face, we can remember that with God by our side, we are more than conquerors. The practical lesson this story offers us is that we must always be ready to trust in God, even when the situation seems lost. David's story inspires us to cultivate an intimate relationship with God, to seek Him in all moments, and to remember that in our fragility, He becomes our strength. May each of us, like David, face our giants with faith, courage, and the assurance that we are guided by a God who loves us and strengthens us in every battle.